Yeah. Hello, for gaming community and Beyblade community as a whole. Back today for another episode. Today we have my man Crisis Crusher '07 and Geester 99 joining us. As long as this can hold up, Geester he has school and a busy schedule like the rest of us, but we're trying to coordinate, and this will probably be a thing for the podcast with occasional interviews as we can. It's been a couple of weeks. But we're up here today to talk about Beyblade, talk about our tournaments, some of the new releases, and some of these new WBO changes. So we all haven't. I talked to Mike, Crisis Crusher, a little bit about it, but I haven't talked to Jared in a while. So it'll be good. And how y'all feeling tonight?
I'm doing pretty good.
Yeah, solid. I know I wanted to vent, but I don't want to start the episode off negative. So maybe we can probably listeners are probably like, what do we do? I'm not trying to be negative, but there's some things I do want to talk about, but I don't want to kick things off like that. So what y'all want to talk about first? You want to do the rules? You want to do the Gen 4 or the tournaments? Like, how'd y'all last tournament go? Hello?
Yo.
Oh.
Okay, there. I was saying, I know Mike wants to talk about this one. I was gonna let him go.
All right. Yeah. What was the last one? Team and Palooza?
Yeah.
Team Palooza. This was actually like our worst performance as a team so far. Normally we do really well, like team, but this one was just it went real like everything that could go wrong for us in a sense just was. Like those that normally don't happen and just like mislaunching and stuff like that. It was
Mike,
pretty bad. What?
Mike, you sounded bro-body. Does this sound like that to you too?
Oh, no.
Jared?
Yeah.
Yeah, you sound bro-body. It's all good. Like you still coming in. Huh?
It's probably because I'm driving home from work.
Oh yeah. My bad, man. I could have. It's all good. But you said y'all were in the issues?
Yeah, we just had like a bunch of like I swear we had so many stamina matches that we just got KO'd in somehow. And it's like I'm sitting there, I'm like, man, if my thing just stays in, I'm pretty sure I win. It happened to me so much. It happened to all of us, but
what were y'all using Win mainly?
I think me and Mike both were on Win, Dynamite, and Vanish.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like we're getting KO'd by like in mirror matches, like in like wind mirror matches and stuff. It was so weird.
Yeah. When I got to experience for the first time at our last circuit event. Excuse me. And I saw the power of Win, and it's legit, and it's like how y'all were saying, or at least I talked to Mike about it, how it acts like an attack style bay, or it just gets the KOs. It's just so low and wide. It doesn't really like knock the other bays. It just kind of just like pushes them
pushes them.
Yeah.
I think it's just the size of it compared to like everything else, like just like width wise, because it takes up so much room.
It does. It's like once it's in the center, which is going to take regardless, the whole concave, like that lowest point of the stadium, nothing can get underneath it to push it out. You know, it sits, well, at least what I saw, it sits low, it covers up that whole circle, so there's nothing you can do. But that was just my estimate. What'd y'all end up placing? Did y'all place?
No, we didn't make finals. We made it into like the tiebreaker because we only had 5 teams or 6. I can't remember if it was 5 or 6. But we that's like 4 round robin for teams.
Okay.
So we made it into like the tiebreaker for second, but then we just like lost in it. We lost our first one, and then Nightwing's team won both of theirs, so then they got the spot regardless. I think is how it worked out.
Okay. Who won overall?
It was Godly Requiem team. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I think T and J Make 'em Burst. He told me, he said it was a younger. He said it was a young gen team, so younger generation. Like, so I figured I wouldn't know who they were, but I guess it was younger kids because I met Godly Requiem before. I don't know how old he is. Probably
All of them are minors.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, I know Godly Requiem is from Singapore originally. Yeah, I met him at Dark Continent, and then he was also at the Bladers Kingdom. There was something else I was going to say on that, but overall solid. Oh, Mike, did they ever get back with you about possibly adjusting the rules for like round robin and team format?
No, they haven't acted me on it yet. I mean, I'm pretty sure that's something that they probably, because when I talked to Frost, he said they're probably going to bring it up in one meeting. So it's just probably one of those things where, oh, this could use a change, but we know the whole staff takes a pretty long time to change things. So
Yeah.
I mean, in all honesty, I'm sure that like team format is something that's like something that they don't
bottom
really.
tier problem.
Yeah, it's like we'll get to it when we don't have anything else more important to do. Because like it doesn't. I don't think it gets played that much. The only reason why people are playing it is because of Team Palooza. If it wasn't for that, I don't think anyone would be playing it right now.
100%. I think the same. But now that it is getting a little bit more traction, other people might start. But actually, the only people that I've seen that are even doing the team format, so they're all affiliated with Team Palooza.
Right.
I haven't seen any regular organizers just doing it just to do it. But it's still fun. It is what it is. But I guess on that note, go ahead.
Well, I was going to say Beyblade Premier, which is Conti. They're now the WBO sponsor, and he might want to do this yearly, where annually, every year we do Team of Palooza stuff, and if that's the case, then team format becomes bigger.
Yeah, I imagine that he would do this annually. I imagine, and shout out to him for becoming a sponsor. I think that he is more involved than the last sponsor was, or he will be more involved because he's more he's more into the competitive scene, not competing himself, but for running events and like just hosting events, nice Beyblade tournaments and things like that. I've even seen some stuff that he's done outside of the WBO that look really cool. I might post a thread if I could find it, or post something. It was a tournament down in Florida. It was at a convention from another organizer. Hoyos or Joyos? You know him, Geisha?
No.
The name sounds familiar, but like I don't like know them.
Yeah, I think it's Joyos, and he hosted an event in Florida. I can't remember the name of it, because CSC Raymond, his dad told me about it, and he sent me some links, and I saw it, and it was dope. It was like a legit esports, or
I saw like a clip of it. I saw clips from
you
it.
did?
I think Sniper
Yeah,
sent me one.
yeah. It was dope. They had they had, what was it? Not it's what are people? They're not spectators, or like commentators or whatever.
Yeah.
Like they were set up. I think they were probably in their own room because I didn't hear any background noise, and they were going over. It was like a Twitch stream. So on half of the screen you could see the Beyblade battle, on the other half like you would see stats and the participants playing, and then you had the commentators talking about the combos and who's going to win. Like it was sweet. It was set up like so professional and so nice. So I know that he'll be able to, I can see Team of Palooza being a yearly thing, and also with summer games. I think Team of Palooza will probably be a fall thing, and then summer games will be for this Team of Palooza's fall and winter. Summer games is from the spring and summer. And that'll be a big WBO thing to get people in. Yeah, so I think it'll definitely work out. If I can remember, if I can find them, I'll try to put some links into the description below. But yeah, y'all want to how y'all feel about these the new rules?
I like them a lot.
Huh?
I'll say, Jared, why don't you go?
I mean, I like the mode changing a lot. I think that'll help 3v3 feel a lot better than what it does right now.
I'm gonna go through. I'm gonna pull it up. Because you're not home, Mike, and if y'all want, we could talk about them. I don't know if you have them pulled up, Jared.
Yeah, I pulled it up.
Oh, you do?
Yeah.
Okay. I think the first one was the plastics. I don't play
there's plastics
plastics.
and HMS stuff.
Yeah.
Trigger V2 and All Might got banned for limited format, which is like I know you guys don't play them, but like just like looking at the format, like Trigger V2 is insane in that format. I don't even know why it was allowed to begin with, but whatever. At least they got rid of it.
Yeah. It's good to have you up here because we don't play. All we play is burst standard. So I didn't know what type of impact that it had. I did see people commenting and posting that they were happy and excited that it happened, but it wasn't something that I looked at.
Well, like the thing with like Trigger V2 specifically, All Might as well, like they're both good in like Burst GT format.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the format that's supposed to be like a generation or two ahead of Burst Limited. So it's like, if this one's good there, of course it's going to be good in the other one.
Yeah. Let's see, Trigger V2. Go ahead.
I feel like Burst Limited needs to be renamed. I don't feel like it's like the correct naming for it.
I think what happened was like it came out when people were trying to make an alternative format that wasn't classic, and then they just called it limited to follow the Metal Fight like naming for that format, and then they made GT format, and then it just got confusing.
What is the difference between limited and classic?
Classic is just single and dual layer, and like some of like the Hasbro exclusive stuff that's like Chozy, I think, or God. And then there's limited format that's like mostly God series stuff and like a bit of the Chozy stuff.
Mm-hmm. Sounds legit.
It's basically like a year or two ahead of classic format is what limited is.
Oh, okay.
I mean, like if you just think of it as like Burst God format or Burst Chozy, maybe probably more like God, but you just think of it as that, and it's probably better.
Okay,
it's easier to think about that way.
Yeah, that makes more sense in my head because I've looked through the rule books, but as far as for those formats, but it was mainly when I was becoming an organizer or when people ask me questions. I don't dive into them that much because I don't play it. But all right, on the next one, the identical parts and equipment clarification. So with this one, like, I didn't even know that was an issue, that people were thinking that different colors of a driver was different. I never heard of that, but I guess it is because when they talked about it, it was like, hey, just because it's a different color or whatever doesn't mean that it's a different part. Or was I interpreting that wrong?
I think people like I think it was like people taking if a part breaks, you have to replace it with something identical, like super literally, where it has to be the exact one. Now, like it matters for like stuff like Extreme Dash, but like if we're replacing a High Extend Plus or Extend Plus or whatever, if the Z chip is a different color, that's not going to matter. But like Extreme Dash does matter because some of the molds have different like some have softer rubber and some is harder. So technically it's like different, but I mean it's not enough where I care. Like
yeah, because I was saying like that would be tough because the only way you would really know that is if like you were heavily involved. But I'm thinking of like new kids or people who just bought a lot of parts. Like I wouldn't know if I never played with y'all. If I was just playing here in North Carolina, I wouldn't know. I would think all my Extreme Dashes were the same. But yeah, I guess it makes sense, and people were running into issues with it. Did you have anything on that one, Mike?
No, I mean that's pretty much all it is. I was agreeing with Jared. They probably just thought it was when a part breaks, you have to get the exact same part that you had, and it's not. That's not what it is at all.
Yeah. The next one, this stadium adjustment reminder. Now, I know. I think I know where this came from. I know there was talk about it for adjusting the stadium, because the way that I have always seen it is you have to adjust. You have to ask the judge to adjust the stadium or to move the stadium. Like the bladers are not able to touch it at all. But now that I'm thinking about it, I think they have it in the rule book. Either they just put it in now or whatever, that the stadium needs to be positioned so that it's fair or even to both players, but they don't show a way to do it. It just says to do that.
I know they used to have a diagram in the metal fight one, but I think everyone knows that you just give everyone a pocket and a half, or at least I'd hope they know that.
Yeah, but that's the thing is everybody doesn't play that way, and I've seen that in different regions. That's why I was like kind of, well, not anal about it, but that's why I was like letting people know at Dark Continent, like, hey, this is how we're going to do it, because some people will have a pocket facing towards them, some people have it facing towards their opponent, and honestly, some people prefer it that way. But that's not what's in the rule book. But it is what it is.
I guess they got rid of it.
Yeah, because I haven't seen, at least I don't know if they ever had a clarification with the B09 as far as the diagram for it.
I was checking in the metal fight one. I didn't see it anymore. I know it used to be in there like forever ago. I like vividly remember the picture.
Okay. Have y'all run into stadium issues up there like that? I don't think so.
Not in a while because we have the boxes now.
Yeah.
Okay. So what's the next one? Deck format launcher clarification.
Oh, this one.
Yeah.
This one here, like, so I don't know if I actually dislike it more now than I did.
What you mean? How did you dislike it before?
No, okay, so I didn't really dislike it before. Like, I never really thought about it enough to care. But then when I think about where it's at now, it almost kind of like bothers me the way it is now. Like, because before the initial intention of it was you could come up with 3 launchers and one launcher is supposed to be assigned to a specific Beyblade. That's the way it was meant to be, but the wording didn't state it that way. So, you know, you had, like, we've only ever really had one person come up with 3 launchers. The most I normally see people come up with is 2, one left, one right. And then JC Makenburst started bringing up 3 launchers to, you know, the deck formats and everything and whatnot. And he even does it in the regular rounds too, like for 3-on-3 and whatnot.
Yeah.
But like, so I don't know. Like, I feel like now where it's like, yeah, you can bring up 3 launchers and you can just, you know, choose whatever launcher for whatever. But then it's like you've got 3 different launchers there with 3 different like string lengths or something like that, and then you're deciding, oh, I want to use this launcher for that or this launcher for that. And I honestly just feel like that way it takes up a lot more time than if they were strictly assigned.
Yeah.
Like, because go ahead, Jared.
Now the launchers aren't assigned to a specific Beyblade, right? You can just use them whenever.
Right.
Yeah. So you can come up. You have 3 bays. You can come up with 3 different launchers. I see and understand like the benefit for it. Like if you were going against a certain Beyblade or whatever, and you wanted to have a less powerful launcher if you were using attack or something like that, I can get that. You're saying you think it's going to be more lengthy in time and deciding and more confusing, Mike?
I do, especially like I guess granted, the only experience I get is JC Makenburst doing it, and the one thing from him that I've consistently noticed is he'll take the same gears from one launcher and change it to another launcher and this and that and try out the different launchers till he decides which one he wants to use for that battle. And it's a little time consuming. It is. Like, I get it. You know, you're optimizing everything, which is, you know, that I'm always for people doing the right thing. But it just seems a little more lengthy to do for something that I think is more minuscule than it's worth.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, like, I don't know. I just feel like most of the time you want the longest string launcher. Like, the only times I can think of where I don't really want the longest string launcher or something that's going to launch as hard as I can is if I want to launch a drift combo and make sure it's not going to wig out because the launcher's just too hard.
Yeah.
And that's even by launching light, because with the long string power gear DB launchers, I've seen it where even if you just light launch the, drift combo, it can just start wigging out because the launch is still too hard.
Yeah. Yeah. I've also don't have the super long ones, or I don't extend all the way, at least when I have been using attack. That's something I had to tone it down a little bit so it didn't wig out as much. What you think, Jared?
I'd really have to sit down and watch people play with it to see if it matters time wise. It's interesting to me because then you might see more of the older launchers or something. That'd be kind of cool to see. But if it takes forever, it's not worth it. But
Yeah, I think the only tough part would be, as far as I see, is like if people or I guess at the larger events, like with checking launchers and to make sure everyone's launchers are legit, and if they're coming up there with 3 and then you have to do all 3, like check if it becomes more of a common thing, because honestly I think JC is also the only one um that that used the 3 launchers, as I'm trying to think of it.
Yeah,
I see a lot
pretty
of
sure
people
he's
with
like
2.
the only person that's done it.
Yeah, I seen people with 2. I only use 1. Yeah, and most of the people that I see with 2 is so they don't have to switch their gears. They can just have one right and one left. But yeah, he does use it to optimize. It doesn't. I haven't seen the issues with it for time, but then again, I'm not judging him as much as y'all are. So y'all deal with a lot more tournaments with him than I do.
I don't think it for now. It doesn't take a lot of time for him. I don't know
No.
if more people will start doing it now. The only thing that I don't know how this works with is switching and staying and stuff. Because do you have to pick your launcher when you pick your combo, and then if you win
That
the
is a
point,
thing.
it's do
Yeah.
you have to stay with that same launcher, or do you have to? Can you switch your launcher then, or when do you get to switch your launcher?
Yeah, I think that is a good question, because I know if I was utilizing it and I had all 3, if I see what combo you're using, then I'll know what launcher is best for me to counter with. If I was using one with a shorter string or one with a longer string, one with more torque or something I wanted to light launch, and then I go with that. But people look at that in a bad way, because that's the same as the mode changes. I saw your question about that too. I'll get to that one in a second. We'll stay on the launchers for now, but yeah, that is a question that I could see arising probably down in the future. There's a couple of the rule changes that I had questions with, but as far as the launchers, I wasn't thinking too heavy on it. Honestly, the rule change didn't bother me, but I think that's because it doesn't affect me at all. It actually made things just a little bit simpler for me, because if someone does come up with 3 launchers and they have 3 bays, trying to keep track of which launcher goes with which bay and this and that, because when you're watching the matches and you get the point, I'm looking to make sure deck format is confusing as it is, trying to explain it with new people. So I'm making sure that the loser gets priority and things like that. I'm not necessarily paying attention to the launchers. And when it comes to 3v3, I'm trying to make sure that nobody's cheating and picking their bays out of order. I will forget about the launchers. So it made it easier on that for me, but I could see with the time.
Yeah, I know,
Yeah.
personally judging JC, I do not remember what launcher he started with on which combo, and most of the time he's using 3 DB launchers anyway. I'm like, did he use that one the first time? And then I just think, do I care? Does the opponent care? No.
Yeah.
All right, it's fine. If they have video of it and they want to go back because they lost and say something, whatever, I guess you can be that
Yeah.
way about it. But he changed the color of his DB launcher, dude. It doesn't matter. I
Yeah,
don't know.
I don't have a problem with it like gameplay wise or anything. I just have an issue with it in the sense of time wise. Just
Yeah.
because next thing you know, someone's gonna be like, okay, well, let me get a test launch with this launcher. Now let me switch to this launcher. Let me get a test launch with this launcher. Now let me switch to this launcher. Get a test launch with this launcher. Oh, let me swap the gears around and get a test launch now. Bro, we're not gonna test like the 16 different combinations you can do between your launcher and your gears.
Yeah, I can see
Like,
that.
if someone starts doing that, I will disqualify them and tell them to leave. I'm sorry, I'm not doing this.
Yeah, I can see that. Because I got another point to make. Once we get to the variation changes, the mode changes for your bays, I'm gonna talk about a couple experiences I had. Well, y'all good with launchers? Y'all want to move on to the next rule?
Yeah, no, I'm good.
Yeah.
All right. Rule books. Restriction of mode changes. Okay, here it is. Restriction of mode changes requiring disassembly now lifted. All right. So we can do everything except for change rotation. And for me, Mike, I know you put it in there. It's like, when exactly can you do it? But from when I read it, like before the match and in between rounds, to me that meant any time. But I think, and definitely correct me if I'm wrong, were you saying like if me and Geister were going to battle and I had Dynamite Perseus or whatever, and he had Vanish Longinus, I see what he's got. It's like, okay, I want a mode change. I go to high mode. It's like, okay, I'm ready. And he's like, okay, he sees that, and then he wants to go to high mode. And then I'm like, okay, well, maybe I want to go back to low. Is that what you meant?
Right. So
Okay.
now let me clarify something here. I already knew how to interpret the rule, and I asked that because let's go back to this good old event of someone launching a Beyblade the wrong direction. So just because something is not worded properly in the rule book, someone could just start an argument with it because they, and that's why I wanted to ask that, because luckily Mana and Think both like commented on it today and clarified it. So now I have a reference to go back to in case the option comes up.
Okay.
So
what did they say?
They said basically when one person decides to mode change, the other person has to decide right then and there if they want to mode change, and both players turn their back.
Yeah.
Because that is another part of the rule where it says if both players want to mode change, they turn their backs around and do it. But it's still not clarifying of, can they only mode change once then?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like if both said I want to mode change, they turn around and then they turn back around and one person sees how they change their mode and they're like, I want to mode change again.
Yeah.
Because the battle hasn't started. So
yeah, I think at least at my events, and I don't know if this is going against the rules, but I know I don't want to argue with anyone. So I would just like, I guess, cut out all the fat with this rule and straight up, like when they come to battle, they present their base to each other, and off gate, I'll be like, turn around and make any mode changes that you want to make at this time. When you turn back around, you're set for this battle, for this match.
That's the same thing I plan on doing as well.
Yeah.
Like that's how WBBA does it. It's something we might as well just actually say is here in ours as well.
Yeah. I think that'd be the most efficient. Yeah, because I can see the back and forth. Because I've seen it when I have my my FGC events. And the tough thing with this rule, like it is really great, and I love it. I'm not down in it at all. I love it when I'm able to change modes, because it lets you utilize the most amount of skill that you can use with your combo, with the exception of the rotation changes, which is still a little bit too OP in some of our formats. But anyway, I've seen some kids that come to the event and they don't really know the benefits or like the tactics of mode changes or anything like that. They just want to do everything they can with their Beyblade, just like they see in the anime. So even before the match starts, they'll be like, I want to do this, and that. And it's like that, well, like you were talking about the launchers, like that is so much worse dealing with these kids because sometimes they don't know how to put it back together. And they're like, hey, can you help me take this part off? And I'm like, come on, man. we have so many other matches to get through, other than yours. Like, you need to figure out what you're doing, and you ain't figured out quick. But yeah, how you feel about it, Jared?
I mean, I think it's just a good thing to have. There's so many mode changes now, especially with like DB and BU coming out. That's like it's kind of boring not to be able to do it more than once, and like it makes like the first run through in like 3v3 feel awful sometimes.
It does, because you overthinking. Like, dang, if we reshuffle, I'm stuck like this forever.
Yeah. There's so many times where I'm like, man, I want a mode change right now, but I just can't because I'm throwing the rest of the match.
Yeah,
It makes me have basically only have 2 combos for the reshuffle as opposed to having all 3 available, you know?
Yeah.
let me ask y'all this, because as soon as this rule came out, my mom, like, I got hype not for 3v3. Like, I got hype for playing 1v1 again. That's just me though. That's what I got hype for. And that, honestly, I got hype for 1v1 because I'm like, it's gonna be shorter, and it's actually giving players a more definitive chance. Like, yes, you could still like try to scout somebody's bay out and come up with a drift, but I'm sure y'all witnessed it a whole lot more now, especially with these Baron combos and like high and low mode. Drift was a lot easier to beat than it used to be, with opposite spin, as long as you have a good. And I got hype about that. You think it's still going to be an issue like that with 1v1?
I would be fine with 1v1 if like bearing drift didn't exist.
Oh yeah, I forgot that bad boy did just come out.
Like,
Actually, you know what?
thing,
I did remember, because I think that's the reason why I was like, I'm running Baron Drift on one combo, and we're gonna make it work. Yep. But
Yeah. Like, honestly, Baron Drift might be a part that I think should kind of just be banned in the format. Like, in general, I do. Like, like, its only real weakness technically is attack types, but then at the same time, I watched the thing like not get KO'd by attack types. So
yeah,
like, I hear a lot of people say, oh, it's weak to attack types, it gets KO'd easily. You know, I see people like Zanky say the same thing about High Extend Plus, and yet I'll put my High Extend Plus in and it not get KO'd by an attack type, like, almost ever.
Oh, I didn't know he said that. I don't know if I've ever really seen. Well, I know I've seen High Extend Plus get KO'd, and I know like defense isn't really a thing, but that's one of the more defensive. It doesn't get KO'd that much. Surprised he said. Yeah.
See, that's the part of like people, like different people doing different testings, I guess. Like, maybe if you're in a more attack prone area, maybe you're gonna see more things get KO'd than normal because you know how to launch your attack type. I don't know.
Yeah, that is a thing. They do have attack, and Maryland, y'all never use attack, so you don't know. I'm joking. That was a joke. I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, Kirito. You don't belong to the Maryland crew now.
Yeah.
I think the thing with High Extend Plus is like I feel like it gets KO'd like more often later than like the bearing drivers do.
Yeah.
But I think like earlier on, I think like it's like the only good time you can KO bearing, because otherwise if it's like later, it doesn't like slip. Like I feel like High Extend Plus will like lean and slip itself out a lot against attack.
Yeah.
But like bearing doesn't do that. And
Like,
I guess that's where the argument comes from people, which it makes sense.
Like High Extend Plus, I see KO itself more than I see an attack type KO it. Taking case our last tournament, Jared.
Yep.
That happens so much.
In stamina mode, you're running in a stamina mode and it's KOing like that.
Yep.
Yeah.
Is it like insane spin going against wind though?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. I can 100%. That was happening to me. Wind was kicking my butt. Yeah. All right. Yeah, I can 100% see that. But yeah, I was excited for 1v1. I was even thinking about pick 3, choose 1. And now that we have you up here, Jared, I'll let you did you want to speak your piece on pick 3 choose 1 versus 3v3? Always talked about it, but you weren't up here to give your viewpoints.
We can do it after this.
Okay, all right.
We can get to that after this.
All right. Let's see. What's the next one?
I'd say it's like the stadiums and then like the clarification for BU and DB.
Okay. So now the stadiums, I think of all these rules, this was the one that I foresaw a problem with, and it's the pocket rule with the Pro Series stadium. Because I saw it when the Bay hits that back wall, like in the B09 stadium, like it happens like quick. And granted, I'm not gonna be the person to be like, oh, I think this, or on my own personal testing. Like it definitely needs to happen more. I need to see more events, but I feel like those walls in the Pro Series stadium, it's not as defined when it hits it. And even if so, I mean, you got 4 walls. It's a smaller stadium. Those are smaller pockets. I feel like you'd be looking at a lot of replays with the size of the bays right now. And I can see that prolonging an event, any event, because it doesn't matter if it's attack or not. Those pockets they usually get hit. What do y'all think?
Go ahead, Jared.
I was saying, I'm trying to think back. The last time I played in like the Pro Series stadium was Nightwing's Invitational back in the summertime.
Yeah, and wasn't there an issue there with the wall, or did he?
Yeah, I think the way, I don't remember how we played it actually. Did we? I don't think we played wall caves. I think if it went and stuck in the pocket, I think it was dead. But otherwise, it was fine. Is that how it was, Mike?
I think so. I can't remember, to be honest with you, because I played at Nightwing's events where one time like the pockets were KOs and one time they weren't, and it all just kind of blurs together after so many tournaments.
Yeah. That's why I think we played it both ways. I don't really remember. I think after playing that event specifically, I think I liked the Pro Series Stadium less than like originally.
Yeah.
Like it's fine. It's like I'd still rather play like the B09 or B33 whatever. I still think that's probably like the best stadium like period, but
Yeah.
Other than it's just not being big enough, but that's like you kind of have to just take it and deal with it at this point. You're not getting a bigger stadium.
Yeah. What do you think about like the DB? You think people are going to start using it? Or you think the crowd is generally going to stick with it?
I think people will maybe try it in, like in other areas now. Like I know we've tried it at least like once or twice, and like I know most people aren't like too hype on it or whatever. But I think if a tournament went up and they said DB Stadium, I'm pretty sure people would just come anyway. Like people here just come and play anything. So
Yeah.
I don't know about like everywhere else. I don't mind it. To me, it's like I just compared to playing 0G as opposed to like Metal Fight Standard. They're completely different, but they're the same Beyblades.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I think, and I just thought of this like right now because I know I'll probably still keep playing Standard, and I know we're gonna talk about it later. But with 4th Gen coming out, and still shout out to staff for getting the rules pushed out. But I don't know if even all these will be utilized that much. And I was just thinking about that with a DB Stadium because I probably wouldn't invest in a DB Stadium at this point in time if I didn't. Well, that's a lie because they're a lot cheaper than the B09 stadiums. But as far as like changing my whole tactics instead of just jumping into the 4th Gen and trying to play well that way, but that's just me. I don't know.
Yeah, like I think once like new gen of Beyblade comes out, it'll eventually become like Metal Fight status where it's like people play it sometimes, but it's not like you're playing it every month or whatever. Like
I was gonna say, like, this stadium change needed to happen a lot earlier than it did.
Yeah.
Like this you know, this is the one thing about staff that I hate the most. They're very reactionary rather than trying to think ahead or anything like that.
Nothing is proactive. Everything is very reactionary, and like it takes too long to get the reaction through, and it's like nothing happens when it needs to. It feels like everything comes out like 6 months to a year late. Like we could have had
Yeah.
the DB Stadium for like 2 years now, and we were finally getting it when like Burst is dying. So it's like
Yeah.
the interest in playing it isn't going to be there because it hasn't been around long enough.
Mhm.
Right.
And it's like I guess it's just the fact that the staff members are different from when Zero G and when like Burst Dynamite came out, because pretty sure the Zero G Stadium just came out. They're like, yeah, we're just gonna make this a format, and then it just happened. But
Yeah.
like the DB Stadium had so much pushback for whatever reason and whatnot. And I guess I mean, it's technically like a balanced stadium, but like it's not even ratio of like pocket the wall and stuff, and like the bridge was weird and people didn't like it. But
Yeah.
Like the weird thing is like, you know, yeah. So when I had made my argument to have, you know, allowing DB Stadium to be a ranked stadium that you could just choose to use, and there was a lot of backlash about it. But then a lot of people were like, "Well, just make it its own format," which I was honestly I was just so dumbfounded by that response, because in all reality, if you're still playing Burst Standard, but in a DB Stadium.
Yeah.
I think the main thing is like I think people got confused and they just didn't see the fact that you wanted to make sure the tournaments were all done in the same stadium the entire time. Like that's why I think Zero G is like I think it's listed differently. I don't know, but like you had to list it as its own thing. So I think it's still considered like Metal Fight, but then you say it's a Zero G tournament. But
Right.
when you use the Zero G Stadium, you're not having one match happen in the Zero G Stadium and the next one happen in the BB10. Like
Exactly.
I think
Like,
people when they read your thing just thought you wanted to like just whatever stadiums you have, just use them, and that's not what
Yeah.
you intended, but that's how people read it.
Yeah.
right. And then even then, like but see, the thing was I even then tried to clarify that with a bunch of the people backlashing about it, and even then they just didn't care. They were just too busy of I'd rather see it as its own format, and I literally like just told them I'm like, so let me get this straight. You'd rather it be Burst Standard with the DB Stadium as a whole separate format than just being able to have the option to use the stadium in regular Burst Standard. So we got to create a whole nother rule book for nothing.
Yeah. Yeah. Let's remember too, though. Like they were loud about that, but it was only I was dumbfounded or just like blown away from it because it was only a few people. Most of the people who didn't care, or I feel like the majority of players, especially with in Burst Standard, they didn't care or they wanted it. But the thing was, the loudest people were the people who were against it, and it was probably like 5 people, if that. They got hurt a lot.
So this is one of the things that I've noticed a lot about our Beyblade community here, because you know Shindog recently started making those prototypes or whatever for the reprint of the Tornado Attack Stadium. So I've seen some people talk about, well, why don't we allow this to be a stadium in like even Burst and this and that? And while that's an okay idea, this is my thing. That stadium was created for what? Plastic? The tornado
The
tornado
attack was made for plastics.
What
right.
is it? It doesn't have a top, right?
No, it doesn't have a top.
Yeah.
So like it was made in the plastic era. It's a stadium for plastics. And then what is it? The BO9 or no, BB10 is similar to it.
Metal Fight, yeah.
Yeah, but it's very similar,
version
right?
of the Tornado Attack, yeah.
Right. So it's basically the same thing. That makes sense to allow it, but it's like now they want to allow it for Burst. This is my thing. The game is constantly evolving, but there's so many people that just want to hold on to what existed in the past. Do you get what I mean? Like,
yeah, I agree, and I'll go back to what both of y'all has said. But I think I remember Jarrett saying it, or I mean, you said it should have happened like 2 years ago. But even with this man, we probably sound so negative because we were complaining for this to come out and it finally come out, and now we're complaining about it. But I am very thankful that the rules did change. I think in the future going forward, like once it comes, they should do, because they did that with the Pro Series, because there was a lot of questions, like even mine with the pocket rule, where they were like, hey, we're just going to run this, and as we run into issues, we'll adjust. But for right now, this is what it is. And I think we have all said that before, like even with the DB Stadium, like let's just do it. And then if we run into issues and people don't want to play or something like that, then we can make adjustments. But Takara Tomi's making these things for a reason, because these bays are incredibly huge right now. We should have ran it when it happened, but hopefully they'll learn from it, from this. And when fourth gen comes out, of course we're going to be using the stadium that comes out with. But if they have another one in 2024, it won't be like we wait 2 years before we can incorporate it because of testing or whatever.
Right.
Yeah, like I think I've said it like multiple times on here, where it's like, I don't like the idea where they're like, well, we need to run test events and then we got to do this. And oh, yeah, these test events are unranked. So it's like no one has incentive to host a test event really, except for like
Yeah.
Shindog, because he's a staff member. So of course he's going to do it. So it's like, well, of course he's going to do it when like no one else is going to really care. They're just going to want to run the ranked event that they can run because
Mm-hmm.
people are going to actually show up for that.
Yeah.
And
And
it's
then
like, we
go ahead.
wait 5 months to run X amount of test events or whatever, and then it's like, then the format's out or the rule change is there, and it's like, well, that was forever ago, and we don't care about it anymore because this should have happened forever ago. We talked about
Yeah.
this 6 months ago. We're running test events. Everyone forgot and moved on to the new release or whatever else just came out. So nobody's thinking about it anymore. And then they just put it out there and it happens, like, okay, whatever.
Yeah.
It's what happened with Burst Limited format. That's why it's in such a weird state right now, because no one really plays it, because it's like hype kind of died quick.
Yeah. I don't even know of anyone that do y'all play it up there?
I think they
No,
ran an
not
event
really.
up here recently. I don't personally like the format that much anyway, so I don't really want to play it. Like, I watch it and see what's up with it, but I don't find myself like caring to like actively like play test it and stuff.
My one of my things too, I think with the progression of Beyblade and the game and the sport as a whole, we will, or we have to cater to, because right now, like we're invested. The three of us are invested. Jared, you've been invested for the longest. You've been playing Metal Fight and this and that. Me and Mike, we've been invested with standard. So we will continue to play standard and go to rank standard events. It doesn't matter if it's how many generations down the line. But for new kids that are finding out about Beyblade, whether they find out right now with Burst or they find out with the fourth gen, they're going to want to play with the things that they see on the TV, and that's who we have to kind of like cater to, because in order for it to grow, like eventually, I mean, life happens with us, like to where we can't host that much or we're not always able to go. So to keep the sport growing, we have to stay relative. So I guess that's what we're really trying to say is as far as the time it takes for rule changes. And we get it, like the staff and things like that, like things take a while. But if we take 5 months to do the testing and then another 5 months to deliberate on whether or not the testing was legit, it's like what you just said, Jared, and it's like we don't care anymore at that point. Because I argued about the DB Stadium, Mike. I know you did too, and I'm happy to see the rule change. But now at this point, it's like I'm not going to switch up. I'm not going to switch it up for the circuit, and I've invested in so many B09 stadiums right now. I'm going to use those things. It's like $400 to get 4 of them. I'm not about to just like put them to the side. Like they're going to be used. Yeah.
Well, see, that's like, here's the thing that upsets me the most about it. I put my proposal up for this, all these kind of changes and whatnot, like what, earlier this year. I think it was early this year I did it.
Yeah.
And it was a while ago.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I did this, and then I had so many debates with people. Like, everyone liked my proposal except for the DB Stadium. There was so many people that just wanted to argue about the DB Stadium over and over again. And it actually just got tiring to the point where I just said, I don't even care now. I don't even care about the whole proposal anymore because
Yeah.
like people just want to find something to argue about.
Yeah.
Like, and so then at that point, I just didn't care anymore. And then the change happened, and I'm like, whoa, that's cool. And then I sat down and thought about it, and I'm like, burst ends in a month. Whoa.
Yeah, like that's what I mean. Like I don't know. We should have just like, well, let's make the stadium legal. Just make sure everyone has to use it the entire tournament. We're not mixing the stadiums, and just let people try it. Like, let people try it for points, because people will actually care to like really play test in the stadium and really like try to push whatever. Because it would have been neat to see like mostly sparking stuff in it. Because we never really got to play that format. Like, man, when the Zero G Stadium came out, there was 2 releases, and they're like, "Yo, this is legal," and you just had to figure it out. And it was fun because it was completely different. But like
Yeah.
for DB Stadium, they're like, "Yeah, we're not making this ranked," and then yeah, we're just keep playing in the standard stadium, I guess.
Yeah.
I'm like, I don't know if it happened that way because the way the Dash Stadium came out, where it's like, yeah, here's this new stadium that we're gonna like make, and then they never released it on its own or ever again. So
Yeah.
I don't know if they were like afraid that was gonna happen, whereas like they're just gonna release a DB Stadium once and then never release it again, and then we're gonna make a format for a stadium nobody can get, which I
Yeah.
can kind of understand. But
Here was the thing about the DB Stadium. When it came out, you had it in a set, and you had it as a standalone stadium you could buy.
yeah,
That was
that was the main thing that people said against the Dash Stadium, was like it'd be too hard to get enough for a tournament because you'd only get it through the stadium set.
And that I could honestly get behind. Like,
Yeah.
if a stadium only came in one specific like set, and that set was like $100 set, like, yeah, making that ranked might not make sense because you need to have a bunch of people that bought it and can bring it, or you yourself had to spend a lot of money to have it.
Yeah. Yeah, because I think only Brick sells it separately.
But on the same argument, who cares? It could just be ranked, and if you happen to have enough people that have it, they'll do it. Do it.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you just, it's a ranked stadium. You just, if people have it to do it, that's fine. You don't have to have it. You can play in the BO9.
Yeah, it's an option. It's an option.
Right.
So
like that's.
I did.
Go ahead.
Oh, yeah. No, I was just saying. I looked up your proposal. It was April 5th is when you put it up, and that was after us discussing it. April 5th. Then the DB came out, I think, April of 2020, and April 5th of 2021 is when you put up your proposal, and now it is changed in October, 6 months later.
Yeah.
So it is what it is. Yep. All right. So the next ruling, the DBBU legality clarification. I probably need to read that because I don't think I understood what the confusion was with that.
Some people thought BU.
Yeah.
Yeah, some people thought BU isn't Dynamite. So, like, they were trying to use it in, like, classic formats or limited or whatever, because it doesn't say it's Dynamite Battle. It's Burst Ultimate.
But man.
Then they just clarified, it says it even on the box. It uses the BU, or it uses the Dynamite Battle system. So it's classified as Dynamite Battle. That's all it is.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like honestly, if people wanted to put that kind of argument towards it, they should just probably like get told to go home when they show up. Right?
Yeah. Yeah. Some of these
that is such a stretch to try to like try to get that. Oh my god.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, the format is called Classic. Like I said, I don't know the rules entirely, but I would think if it's called Classic, I'm not going to use the newest release that just came out in it.
It's just the way they do the rule book or the ban list. It's kind of like they don't like list every individual piece that's legal or illegal. It's like it'll say like all God series stuff, all Chozy series layers, all Dynamite layers. So technically it didn't say no Burst Ultimate layers, so you could just like you could say, oh, well, it's not there. Well, it is.
Yeah.
Stop trying to do this, please. we're trying
Yeah.
to play the fun format.
Yeah. Yeah. I guess because I have seen people who will, will dissect through the rules and try to find like little loopholes. So I can see why, yeah, they did put it in. And then the last thing, the date conflicts, which is legit. It's not an issue that I'm having here. Only place that I really could see it being an issue is definitely your region, because you have so many organizers and a lot of tournaments are popping up right now, and possibly Florida, because they have a lot going on. But mainly the only one that's hosting right now is Conch. And but I know in your area it is good because now you can have more than one tournament. It's not conflicting, or you'll get restricted.
Well, that was like, you know, it's definitely a better thing for our area. I'll give that, because sometimes like I don't want to have to drive like the extra 10 minutes to go to one place when I could host a tournament somewhere else.
Yeah.
But if one person's already hosting one at the other spot, and if it's like a format that I know I'm not going to play, like a medal fight format, I could host a burst standard tournament. Like, I know the people that like to play medal fight are going to go to medal fight over burst standard, and that doesn't bother me, you know. But there's plenty of people that don't play medal fight that's just like, well, I can't go to that tournament anyway. So if I'm hosting a burst standard somewhere else, and TSO is hosting a medal fight, you know, somewhere else, then the two different communities can just go play. Like, no one's stuck feeling left out.
Yeah, 100%. That makes a lot of sense, especially like I said, your region, because your region is so big, and Florida is too. My region is big, but I'm the only one hosting right now, so I mean I'm not conflicting with myself. But y'all have so many organizers, so you do have more than enough people to run different formats, or even if it was the same format, and they could just choose what location they want to go to.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I'm pretty sure this literally only matters for like us. I don't know where else, anywhere that this actually matters.
Yeah. So I know when Frost used to host, I had to coordinate with him a lot. Like I would be like, hey, I'm trying to get this date because I only get certain weekends off, and he would host on typically he would host on the weekends I was working, but sometimes like our dates may have conflicted, so we had to talk. But that was only just the two of us, and that only lasted for a little bit of time because we started coordinating better. But up there, you got you, Crab, Nightwing, TSO.
Well, that's like a Nightwing has his gaming loft now, and you know, for him as a business, it's smart for him to host a tournament every weekend and try to drag the foot traffic in, which is fine. But you know, at the same time, he likes to play a lot of off the wall formats and stuff compared to just standard or anything like that. And I know I'm probably not gonna, you know, drive an hour to go play in a format that I don't have anything for or anything like that. So,
yeah, you keep it local to you,
right? Like I can host a tournament that I want to play in, because I can't take off. Like, sometimes it's hard for me to get out of work on time and then make it all the way down to Nightwing's place to host a tournament or anything. So like if he's already hosting a tournament and it's not burst standard, but if I really want to play that weekend for a tournament, I can host my own over in Silver Springs.
Yeah.
You know, and just go play.
And if y'all were listening, like, if you're listening, because I know the rule used to be if it's 50 miles apart, it didn't matter. But we're talking like in Maryland, an hour is probably like a 10. I'm probably joking on y'all state, but the traffic up there is ridiculous. An hour is probably like 10 miles.
Yeah, especially if you're in the DC area.
Yeah.
Good luck.
It is ridiculous. So yeah, like that hour, don't think of it as like, oh, he's 60 miles away or this and that. It's in a conflict. Like, no, it's just the traffic is just, it is horrendous.
Well, no, the thing is where I live is 60 minutes from Nightwing's place. It's
Okay.
45 minutes to Silver Springs, Maryland for me from my home. But the thing is the amount of people that play are closer to the DC area than they are closer to where I am. So when I host a tournament, I have to really go out of my way to host one. I'm not hosting one at the park that's 2 minutes around the corner from my house. I'm driving, 45 minutes to an hour away to host these things for people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's what all hosts. Well, not all hosts, but I think people don't take into consideration, and this is actually going to lead me into my next topic, where I'm gonna be negative for a little bit, and then we'll break back into talking about like either the formats and Beyblade in general. But thank you for hosting. So were y'all good on that?
Yeah.
On that topic. So this is something that recently happened with me, and I wanted to bring it to light or attention. I'm not going to say any names or anything like that, but I wanted to talk to specifically parents that come out to events, or anyone that's coming out to an event, and the organizers. If they're, it's it's as Jared has said before, like, we don't care whether your child wins or loses. We're just trying to get through this. That's a part of it. Like, we're not trying to cheat your kids. We're not trying to cheat you. We're not running some big scam or anything like that to try to like get money. Even the only businesses that are hosting tournaments is mine, For Gaming, and Beyblade Premier. Okay, and we're not trying to run any scams or anything like that. So I just had the circuit, and we do have a first place prize, $50 for first place. Second and third, to get discount codes to the store. We had someone win a tournament, and met the dad, had a great conversation, or I felt like it was. And then later, he messaged me. I was just finished working out, and he was extremely rude. And he was like, hey, the message started out nice, like, hey, my son or whatever had a great time at your event, this, that, and the third, been playing for this long. And then he went on to pretty much say, but my gift card isn't working. And he said, like, pretty much like, what that means? That means that he was trying to say that I stole the gift card. Pretty much, I get the gift cards from Walmart. I walked into Walmart, just grabbed a gift card, $50 one, and just stole it, just walked out without paying for it. And he also tried to mention that that I was trying to like cut costs and cover for my costs. And I let him know that how it was coming off was rude, and we ended up sorting out the situation because he tried to use the gift card online. Now, some websites, they will not accept the gift card because they don't want to run into scams, especially right now. It's not Christmas, it's not holiday right yet, but it is the holiday season. So you have a lot of counterfeits, a lot of people trying to scam. I've even dealt things with my store where you get chargebacks from people they'll buy a Beyblade, and as soon as you ship it, they'll put in a claim to their bank, like, whatever. Like, people do scams and frauds and things like that. So the gift card didn't work on that site. And he felt like I robbed him or tried to do something. First off, which sounded ridiculous because I don't charge for my tournaments. I've never charged for a single tournament. I do plan to charge for Dark Continent because it's going to have a $500 cash prize. But I don't charge for any of these other ones. I do it free, and I do it for the kids, and I try to help the community, and I've been doing it for a while. And he came off extremely rude and aggressive, and I was like, if he would approach me in a different way, we could have handled it a different way. Like, it got handled, but I let him know I don't care for him or him or his son to come to any of my events in the future. And that was more because if he had that type of attitude, I know if he comes back again and his son plays, and if his son like loses in a battle, the way that he reacted towards that gift card, which he was wrong about, he may react even worse to the judges or to myself, saying like, we're trying to cheat him, this and that. And I don't want to run into that. I like having a chill, a cool vibe at my event. And the reason why I'm bringing this up now and talking to you all about this, like, if you're a parent and you're getting into Beyblade, or you're a kid, or you're going out there, the organizers, we are all doing the best that we can to host and organize these events. I have a full-time job, full-time career. I'm in the Coast Guard. I'm home, like physically in my house, less than half of the year. Like even right now, as I'm talking to y'all, I'm sitting in the barracks at my station. If I get a call right now, the podcast ends, cuts off, I got to go out there onto the water and do my job, do what I got to do. Same thing with Mike, as he was explaining, like he gets off of work. He was driving home when the podcast started. We have our lives, and then we host these tournaments. They are for us, so we can get to play with the toys that we enjoy. But we also do it for the community, because if it was only for us, we could just get a group of friends together, have some ranked tournaments and this and that. But no, we promote it. We try to help and we try to build. And for anyone to come there and be like, hey, we're cheating or we're scamming and this and that. Like, first off, as rude as it may sound, you don't have to come, and especially if we're doing it and we're doing it for free. A lot of the venues, you get some parts for free, but at least here in North Carolina, there's not a single part that is free. So I'm spending much more than the $50 gift card, even if we're outside, to have these events. And if we're indoors, it's usually close up to $1,000. And that is coming out of my pocket. We have the store that can help with that, but it's coming out of pocket. All that is to say, like, try to have more respect and definitely patience for your organizers, not just the organizers, the judges, in the sense too, because all the arguing and the chaos that I've seen, it is beyond ridiculous. Like, people do cheat in the game and this and that, but I have not seen it to where I guess there may be some judges skewed or showing favoritism or this and that, but I would say for 97, possibly 99% of us that are doing this, we're trying to play straight up, we're trying to play fair, and we're doing this for the community. And with like the backlash and the craziness for something that's so small as this sport, like this isn't like Yu-Gi-Oh! Pokemon. It's not like super big. We are normal people. We're not getting paid by the WBO. We're not getting paid from anyone to do this. So just have consideration with that, because that is beyond stressful. And honestly, it made me not even want to go back to the area to host, but I'm gonna still go to that area to host again, because that was just one person. That was just one experience. And I'm not going to let it ruin it for the entirety of that community in that area. But yeah, I wanted to say that. And I know, Mike, you run into issues, and Jared, I know you have too, even with judging, but I am beyond tired of it. Dealing with people saying that, like, oh, somebody's cheating my kid or somebody's cheating me or this and that, when it's not happening. It almost happened at Dark Continent. It got squashed before it even rose up. But this last one, it really irked me on a whole new level, because of what happened. And he found out, I was like, oh, my balance is there. My bad. And it's like, dude, you were ruled for no reason. But yeah, that's what I wanted to speak on to every parent, every kid, mom, dad, whoever. Like, try to be a little bit more cool at these events, instead of just going off berserk, because we're all adults. I don't think any kids are really hosting, and even if they were, like, their parents would be there so you could talk to them reasonably. Yeah, that's it. That's all I had.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I honestly, I agree that, people have to remember that we are doing this of our own time, our own resources. It's nothing like, we're not getting reimbursed by the WBO.
No.
We don't get, like some of the tournaments that I host, it's you funding them because you're promoting the prize support. Same thing with Conti 7. I host a Team of Palooza. When I'm hosting Team of Palooza or a 4-gaming circuit, it's not my tournament. It's yours and it's Conti's tournament. I'm just the guy organizing it for this area, but it's not my tournament. It belongs to you guys.
Yeah, I guess in the gist of it is a real community. I think people don't see that. And the wildest thing is, like, it'll be new people, and they'll like show up and they'll be like, oh, you're doing this. And it's like, dude, I've been doing this probably before you even knew what Beyblade was. Like, don't show up your first time and be like, oh, you're running this and that. And it's like, come on, man. Like, you don't have to come back. You don't. And I know that may sound rude, and because I've had another kid that he flipped out one time, and I was like, you're being toxic, and the way that you're acting, I've had like 5 other kids not come back to tournaments just because of the way you behave. And you can I don't want you there if you're gonna act like that. It's like, oh, well, you're trying to build a community, but you don't want me to come. I was like, I am trying to build a community. I can build a community by removing, I guess, the bad apples, because one bad apple spoils the bunch. If you're gonna cause 5 to 10 people to no longer come back, versus me just getting rid of one person to have everybody else to have those 5 or 10 people stay, I am more than willing to do that. And I know there's rules and stuff. We got to go through the WBO because, like, I guess to officially ban. But I look at it like, I'm a grown man. I pay for this venue. If I don't want you there, you're not going to be there. And that's what it is.
Also, parents and even players, if there's a specific blader there that does something or says something and you do not appreciate it or you're offended by it or something, let the organizer know. Don't just be like, okay, you know what, we're just not coming back to one of these again.
Yes,
Because
please let me know.
I would rather tell the toxic person that has done this that they can't come back, and allow you to still continue to come and play.
Yeah.
Because we've had issues of that before where people don't speak up and it drags on too long and you see people that are no longer reoccurring.
Yeah.
And that's the goal. The goal of us as organizers is not only to really just organize to play because we just want to play the game, but the goal is to get people to be reoccurring players, to keep coming back so the community grows. Because I want more people to show up that get super involved to where they want to start organizing, so I don't have to anymore.
100%. 100%. And yeah, that's what I had on that. I also want to be for transparent, because sometimes these gift cards are messed up. Because I was like, Jared's probably thinking, because I sent you a $20 gift card and you're like, well, mine didn't work. Let me bring you that story, because I don't know if Mike has shared it. So when I went to get the gift cards, because I usually try to hook up the judges at my event, and I got them gift cards. Some of them, and I'll let you know too right now, Mike, I did send Mike the receipt because I'll try to be transparent and honest. They were scanned. So once I bought them, the money that I put on them went to someone's PayPal account. Because I called and asked that, because the other judges that I had talked to, some of theirs work, some of them do not. So Jared, and I know I'm shouting out on a podcast, I need the number on your card to try to get it fixed or reimbursed, or if not, I'll just give you the money when I see you if it's too much.
All right, yeah, I'll get you after this.
Yeah, but I just want to say, like, it's the scamming or the whole manipulation and wildness. Like, I'm not about that. I don't know anyone in the community that is about that. And like I said, there's only 2 stores that's running the business. We make our money from selling Beyblades. There are charges at some events, and for whatever reason, but I guarantee if y'all saw like the receipts for how much money goes into the events between myself and Beyblade Premiere, you'd probably think we're crazy. I guarantee it, for what we're trying to do, but we are trying to build the community in the way that we can because we're able to do it. And yeah, that's just that. All right. Digress from the negativity. Jared, pick 3, choose one versus 3v3.
All right, I guess we're gonna be on this for a bit.
Yeah.
So, like, I guess the thing, because I hadn't played much pick 3, choose one. I played like one tournament with it, with like burst standard, and that was like a while ago. That was like when it first got legalized, because we were just trying to see which one we liked the most. But like, I played it during like the whole weekend of Beyblade East, and I actually like really enjoyed it. I don't know if it's because I was playing Metal Fight and like, or whatever. Maybe, I'm sure it's like partly biased because I love Metal Fight so much, so it's like I love it regardless. But like the way that format felt there compared to 3v3 was like, well, everyone had their like own, like, I don't like, I guess it depends, because I guess there were so many more experienced people there that were like actually like putting more thought into how they built their 3 combos for their pick 3 choose one deck.
Yeah.
It was like everyone had their own like kind of thing they wanted to like pick out and try to corner people into playing, and they were just kind of basing it off of what they saw the meta as in whatever particular format we were in. And I think, like, of course, out of all the rounds I played, like especially in the limited format, I think the limited format for Metal Fight has the most variety. I don't think I saw any like repeat combos really, except for like maybe like one.
Mhm.
So it was like I'm sure we would get a lot more repeating and like burst,
Yeah.
but it like it felt like everyone had their own like strategy and what they kind of wanted to force people into. Like I had my own thing that I was trying to do. Everyone else had their own thing, and then of course once you put the two decks next to each other, you're like, oh, well, I wasn't expecting to use this random combo, but I guess I kind of have to. Like I had a match where I had a combo in my deck. I had no intention of using it all day. It's just there to like scare people off attack, really.
Mhm.
And like I went against a deck with like two attackers in it, and I'm like, this just looks like the right pick. I guess I'll make it, and I picked it, and
Yeah.
I got rewarded for it.
That's what's up.
So like
I
it felt fun to play that way, but I'm like I think maybe with like burst standard, since there's less variety and layers and drivers, I don't think you'd see that as much. But the thing with
I was gonna say real quick, Jared. I feel like that's why the pick three choose one works better for like Metal Fight format, because that's all solved in the sense of there's a lot more variety you can choose from. Where right now with Burst Standard, when a new Beyblade comes out, the first thing you do is how good is it on bearing, how good is it on high extend plus, how good is it on bearing drift, and that's like all you do. You don't get to test it on Zone Dash Z or Never or half of these other drivers that we even have to know if it meshes well with something that's completely out there.
Yeah. I just had an idea as we were talking though, and I think I'm thinking about it more because you had the mode changes with pick three, choose one, and I guess my argument against it was always like the experienced players, like it will typically show them some favoritism. But if you know the meta right now, because there's a couple of drivers that are really good, but we don't utilize them anymore. And honestly, I don't even know how good they are with the DB um system or BU, but like Atomic, Universe, and Moment is new, but in same spin, Moment is like legit. So y'all just hear me out. So I'm thinking like, because if we do the 1v1 or pick three choose one, wind, some combo of wind will be used on bearing. What is it? Bearing drift.
Yeah.
Bearing drift. But do y'all think in same spin that would beat like Atomic?
uh
Oh,
I
we don't know.
I think
Or,
Atomic normally would win. I'm just thinking because it's just a ball against a cone, but
yeah,
Like
but like
like
what it?
Atomic should win a lot of matchups, but I feel like Atomic in the DB series just isn't good because it scrapes.
It scrapes.
Yeah, like the way Atomic is, like it doesn't work well with the DB system, I think.
Okay. I honestly I haven't used it. I know with during the Sparking generation, like it was still doing its thing. Because people were sometimes you would see it with the Tempest combo because people were running Extend Plus so hard. But Moment works in the same way. But what I'm getting at is if people are running those meta combos and then you have people coming up with their pick three choose one decks strictly to counter it. So you got a right spin on Atomic, you got a left spin on Moment, and then you have an an attacker. And I wouldn't know exactly what you're going to go with because I'd be skeptical to choose my win combo on. What are y'all using wind on up there? What driver?
Most people are using it on bearing.
yeah.
Yeah, I would be skeptical if I had an Atomic that was legit and I could launch it right. I would be skeptical to use it against bearing because that same spin, and it may force me to go to a left spin to get some stamina spill, but then I see a stamina still, but then I see your left spin too, and I lose on that. I feel like it would be another factor to the mind games, especially to the fact that we can also change do the mode changes. That's just my theory right now, or some things that I would try to do, but I don't know. I think with once burst ends, I think we could see some things like that with pick three, choose one. Because with all these rule changes, I am way more inclined to doing 1v1 and pick three, choose one tournaments. I think I will. Like outside of the circuit, I think I will soon.
I think the real difference between deck building and the two formats is like with 3v3, you have to make sure your combo can be anything because it can play against anything.
Mm-hmm.
It's like I said with like pick three choose one, like you can make your combos pretty specialized, and if you make them like the right meta call, like it'll work. Like this combo would
Yeah.
never work in like 3v3, but it'll work in pick three because you force people into weird situations or whatever if they're like playing like just three normal meta combos. But like
Yeah.
I think that's like more interesting. Like with 3v3, you just have to make everything like super catch all and generic, because if it's not, then you're gonna get like, oh, you just put your super crazy same spin combo against an opposite spin thing.
Yeah.
You just get punished for it. But for pick three, you can just put it there and like never have the intention to really use it. Like even if you don't want to use the combo, you still have to put it together, and it needs to at least seem convincing. Like
Yeah.
if you're not gonna put like two garbage combos and a real one in there, because it's gonna be pretty obvious what you're picking. But like
Yeah.
you have to put combos in your deck that are, even if it's not like actually good, you have to at least make it seem good enough where people have to think about it. Like that's what I like the format. Like I know a lot of people don't like it because it is mind gamey, but like I feel like you should be rewarded for like thinking about stuff, and I guess that's why people like deck.
Yeah. Deck is I feel is the most strategic, and yeah, I guess like because I've always stood behind 3v3. I still love it. I still do. It's still like my go to. But like I said, with these rule changes and with the burst ending, I can see the benefits. I saw the benefits of 1v1 as soon as the rules changed, because it makes the whole game change. You're not stuck in a single method. And what you said before about like, yeah, your opponent gets 2 points on you, but you can see the way that they launch, and you can make adjustments at
Yeah,
that time.
I was about to say that about like 3v3, especially with like this goes back to like the beginning when we were talking about the team tournament where it's like, oh, we just got randomly KO'd once. I know I win this matchup if that doesn't happen, but we're not
Yeah.
playing it more than one time. It's like I don't know if I'll ever get that matchup again in that matchup. It's like
Mm-hmm.
I know I can win this matchup like 80% of the time, but I just caught the unlucky 20%. Like I'd 3-1 you otherwise, and it kind of sucks. It's like you get the good matchup, you're gonna win, and then something whack happens because it's Beyblades and the stadium is too small anyway. And it's
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
now it's like, oh, next Beyblade now, and then oh damn, now I got the terrible matchup, and then it's like I'm down 2-0, and then I lose 3-0, and I just got snowballed, and it just feels awful because it's like,
Yeah.
man, if I got to play that first matchup a couple more times, I'm pretty sure I just win the whole match, but you just don't get to.
Yeah. It's tough because even it's like what I had said before. My argument against it, at times, I think Mike had the same argument with the new players and getting smashed on, um, and never coming back. That's what I don't want to see, but I do like the strategy in it. Mike? Did the rules change your mind at all as far as like the formats?
I mean, not really. I mean, it doesn't really.
And it,
I mean, like, I like the idea still of being able to use all your mode changes for single bay and even pick three choose one. I think it makes it fine. But the weird part is if in single bay and pick three choose one, being limited to only one mode change doesn't really matter that much anyway.
say that again. You said
If we were limited to only one disassemble mode change, in pick three choose one and in single bay, it doesn't really matter anyway.
I think it does. I think it does. or at least from the battles that I've seen. Like? Can you elaborate?
Like if we end up having an opposite spin battle, like
Yeah.
say you're on Bearing, I'm on Hyson Plus or something like that, then the best, but you're on Dynamite, I'm on Vanish. Honestly, one of the best things to do is just go high mode because it gives you a better chance at, the LAD at the end.
Mm-hmm.
So at the end, both players just go high mode and you just stay that way anyway because it's just a better option.
I think because I'm thinking I've seen things with my specific combos and my specific molds like that goes against the rulings. Like opposite spin, I tend to go high mode and same spin, and I have better luck with that than anything. Even if they switch to,
So now is that with 3v3? This happens.
This will happen in 3v3 or deck. And I think I know I usually don't change modes in 3v3 because it's the same thing like Jared was saying. Like you got, or we've all said like that one mode change, it's your only time. Like you don't have time to play around. After that match, if you made a mistake and you went to high mode, like you're just stuck. Whether you reshuffle or not. So it's kind of risky. So most of the time it'll be in deck. And I won a tournament like that to where I went high mode. It was on Vanish because I was losing. And I went to high mode. I was like, I don't know how this is going to work out. And I came back. It was like a 4-2 deficit. And I came back and I ended up winning because I controlled the launch and I was able to change modes. Now, I believe if the opponent had used a Beyblade that they didn't end up using to be able to utilize for me to go back to low mode, which would have been better for me, I would have been able to do it. But that's just from what I've seen it on me personally. But
you know what, though? The mode change rule now makes you question something with deck format. So,
oh yeah.
So
Wait, go
now
ahead.
here's the question. So now here's the question. I lose a point to you. So you have to pick your Beyblade first. You pick your Beyblade. Would you have to choose what mode you're going to go in first, and then I can choose what mode to go into if I want when I'm doing my counter pick? Because if you make a pick and I do a counter pick, but then if we decide to do any kind of mode changes and you mode change to high mode and it's better for you to do so, the advantage I'm supposed to have is now gone.
That's true. That is true. Now, yeah, because I was even thinking of it, even if it's like, well, I'm going to use this Beyblade and you use that Beyblade, and then we turn around and do our mode changes. But that mode change is a big factor for deck. It is. Because if they already made their mode change, because before you would be stuck in it. So, once you go to that. Yeah.
This is the part where I just want to make this argument of maybe we have too many different types of formats.
Yeah.
Like, there's a reason why the rules are made a specific way in WBBA, and it just stays that way.
Yeah.
You're always playing single bay, 3-on-3, or 5G. Like, those are the only three formats from what I know that they've had. They've never had anything else. They don't have deck format. They don't have pick three, choose one, or anything like that, where stuff can get really confusing depending on rules.
Yeah.
At least with single bay, 3-on-3, and 5G, the rules can be pretty much consistent between the three.
Yeah.
I would think that you would have to stay in the same mode if you were picking first. Like, you'd have to pick your mode then, and then you couldn't switch afterwards.
So would I.
That's how I would interpret it. I'm pretty sure that's how, it worked for other formats.
Yeah, I wouldn't. I would, because I know if I was looking, I feel like I can see the disadvantage, but I feel like it's too complex because if somebody won and then the other person lose, and then the winner, you know, they're like, well, I'm gonna stay with the same bay and it's in low mode. The person chooses the counter because this happened at Dark Continent, and the person that won, once he saw the choice from the other person, he was like, I'm gonna change modes. And then the other person was like, well, I want to choose a different Beyblade then. And we were like, well, you can't do that. But I could see that right now, since you said that, Mike, I can see that argument coming up because then it would be like, I never would have chose this Beyblade if I knew you were going to go into high mode. I would have chose something else. Yeah, that is a factor that is tough. And right now, like y'all are thinking one way and I'm thinking another. Is something that it will need to be addressed.
Honestly, I think it just needs clarification so we actually know what we're doing when we're like hosting
Right.
and judging. Like,
Well, see, that's why I'm saying, like, that's the only issue with having formats that are vastly different from each other, in the sense of rules might have to change for one of those formats compared to the other.
That's true.
You're talking like 3v3, pick 3, and deck, right? You're not talking like all the different like formats with just, like, a different ban list.
Yeah,
Right.
I have an example. So I know because I called and asked about this because in the rule book, you know, you once you have and I can't remember if I talked about this already in another podcast, but the rule, once you have two draws, and let's say if the score is 0-0, we have two draws because we're running to the stamina matches or whatever, and it's just to save time, then the person that gets the next point wins, or the person with the most points at the time of the two consecutive draws wins. But that's not fair in 3v3 because in 3v3, if you had two draws, you can just go to your next bay and try to get a point off of that. But if I have a deck of three, I have my 3v3 deck and you have your 3v3 deck, neither one of us get a point on our first bay. We go to our second bay and whoever wins. And it's like I never even had the opportunity to use my third bay. So I called and asked about that because it didn't make sense. Like you saying, Mike, like that format needed its own rules as far as the consecutive draws, to where we have a maximum of maybe like 10 battles. But it shouldn't be like we only get to use two of our Beyblades instead of going through the entirety of our deck, because it's not set up like 1v1 is. So yeah, I can see, maybe the immense amount of formats that we have, like deck, pick 3, choose 1, this and that, it needs to be looked at when we implement some of the rules.
I think just stuff needs to get fleshed out like more, and it's like it's insane to me to think that there's like stuff that isn't written in there when it takes so long to get through.
Yeah.
Like like if we were doing stuff quicker and it happened faster than I know it actually does, like and be like, okay, I'll give them missing like, oh, the mode change thing where it's like, oh well, now you can turn back around again after you see it, and then you're just gonna keep playing chicken until you eventually just say screw it. Like I can get them missing that if it didn't take them however many months to word it out and write it out and everything else and talk over it and over it again and again.
Yeah.
Like if it happened in one discussion, they're like, let's just do this, and it was done. Okay, sure, but like I know that the process takes way longer than that. So everything a lot of this stuff should be figured out ahead of time, and it should be written down ahead of time.
It's tough.
I feel like the staff would be better off if, like, as of right now, like, the staff would be really better off if they had, you know, people work on different things in the rule book. Like, you work on this, you work on this, you work on this, and then we'll collab and see what wording was proper for this. Like, they already, together as a group, decide what they want to change, but then they got to be like, you know, work together. You type this out, you type this out, you type this out, and make sure the wording is correct, and we'll quickly collab and make sure that the wording is correct. Make sure everyone understands it.
Yeah. One thing I had a like going to school, like a software development course, and it's just one of the things, like a lot of a lot of businesses and industries do this to where they'll have the alpha, the alpha code or whatever, and they may release it out to some of the workers, and in this case, not put it out publicly to everyone, but at least to the organizers or the heavily involved organizers. And then they could ask the questions like you did when they posted it. And then, like, let's say it takes them a week to draft up the first proposal. They put it out, we make our comments, it's like solid. They go back, rework it, we make our comments, this and that. If it gets too mundane or it's like, hey, you guys are being too nitpicky, just go ahead and release it. But it could be like the alpha, and that could be done within like a month or so, because as soon as we see it, we can put our input and feedback into it. They can go back to the drawing boards of like, okay, we do need to talk about this, this and that, this other thing that they were mentioning. We'll just wait to see how that goes. And then they release the beta rules, show us how it looks and things like that. And we're like, okay, well, yeah, we agree with this, but what about this part? And if it's something that's mundane and like, dude, it doesn't matter, I could see them being like, no, we're just gonna go ahead and release it. But yeah, it may be something that, because I think it's like any industry, like you got, and I'm not saying this about everyone in staff, but like you said, like when it comes to the testing of the stadiums and stuff like that, it's mainly Shindog that's just doing it. So to have the entirety of staff or whoever is all involved, and they're not really running the tournaments and haven't run into all the issues that the organizers and judges are running into, I feel like our input matters when they're making these decisions. Because right now we have a lot of questions and debates that may never get answered, but we'll have to deal with these when we're running our tournaments.
Like, to me, everything just feels so weird, because it's like every time we have a rule update or rule change, there's stuff that's like, oh, well, this can be exploited and this and that, or this isn't worded right and this and that. But then, like, I look over at WBBA and it's just like, they don't have this problem.
Yeah.
They just don't.
I think part of that too is just because it is from Takara Tomy, and it's like, this is what y'all gonna do. If you want to play, this is what you're gonna do. But I think our community is all because
I think our rules are a lot more like gray and like up to interpretation than theirs are.
Yeah. They have a lot less too. Yeah, theirs is just like, hey, this is how you're gonna play, go play.
It's because they just make things in a really direct but generalization to where they don't have to worry about what happens in the future unless it's very specific. Like them originally having the rules of you can only have one rotating changing layer or one rotating changing chip within your entire deck anywhere.
Yeah.
Like,
and then the last set came out, right?
Right, because now they've realized, okay, well, we've released so many different layers that are just dual spin, and people aren't getting to play with them. So let's just make it to where if the layer is fixed in a direction because the chip is a fixed directional chip, let them play it. It don't matter.
Yeah.
Same thing with the chip. If Achilles is in Vanish, it's clearly not changing the right spin. Let them play it.
Yeah.
I mean, they have the advantage that they know what's coming out ahead of time, and we don't. It's like, we can't say that, oh, we should just do it exactly like them, because like, I mean, we don't know what they're planning to make or whatever. But I feel like our rules just need to be a little more like fleshed out. Like, I know people are like, oh, we need to make them generic and like easy to read, which is true. But at the same time, I feel like there's always, every time there's a new like competitive play update, there's always something that's like, well, now I can do this, and this doesn't seem like I should be able to do this, but it's not explicitly written, so I'm gonna say something about it.
Yeah, I know. Go ahead.
It's not a bad thing. Like, it makes sense for people to read the rules and like make sure they know them. And if something says I mean, I'm not gonna like. Obviously, some stuff is common sense. We always talk about the left spin infinite or whatever, but like stuff like that, it's like, come on. But like other stuff about like the mode changing and stuff, like it's not really explicitly said, because they make the change, and then I don't feel like they go back through the old rules and adjust them for the new change. And that's why like the mode changing rules look weird to begin with before they change them again.
Yes.
Yeah.
That is a thing, and I think because Mike went through the rule book and found the contradictions a while ago, and I think that was part of your proposal, because
It
new
was.
rules will get implemented and the old ones were still there and they contradicted each other, and it was like, what do I go by? You know, yeah, it's a tough topic. I know, and I know it's tough on them too, because they're trying to please the masses, and we all want something. And like I said, like I fought hard to get more formats than just a 1v1, because I saw the issues with that. Now looking back at it, maybe if we just had the variable mode changes or some rules to help 1v1, maybe that would have been more helpful, because now we have a plethora of things that we can go through, but the rule book doesn't, it's not specific on them. And it's
So I have a question for you guys, because one of the big things is everything is about the competitive Beyblade scene. You know, like the only thing that we all really have, and even though they don't really mean anything, is the BR point.
yeah,
But that's really like all you have to make you to drive you to want to be better, just so then you can be like, haha, look at where I'm at on this leaderboard.
yeah,
But here's the thing. I personally don't like having all of these other formats being incorporated into the rank.
yeah.
Like, because this is the way I look at it, because I come from Yu-Gi-Oh. Okay?
You talking about in terms of, like, just to clarify, this isn't necessarily 3v3 pick three choose one. This is more like classic, limited, and burst all being
Well, it also applies to pick three, choose one, and all that too.
okay.
Because yes, even though they're technically different formats of stuff, like they're a format within a format. It's basically what they are. But the whole thing is it's like people are playing so much different ways, but they're all going into the same ranking system. So how do you then have a national type, like that's how you would want to have a national tournament. Like that's why for your circuit stuff, you know, to do like when you were thinking about the invites and everything like that, or however it ends up being, all of the tournaments leading up to allowing you to play in that are all the same.
Yeah.
You know, because Joe Schmidt can be great at pick three, choose one all he wants. But if, you know, what the standardized play is three on three, then it doesn't matter if he's good at that or not.
Yeah. It needs to be good on the format that we're playing.
Right. Like that's what I'm saying. Like for us, if we're gonna have a ranking system, I think we need something really just standardized. Like I do like diversity for people to be able to host what they want, and that's all fine. But at the same time, you kind of want stuff to be standardized as well.
Yeah. And go ahead.
People just got to realize: do you want the ranking system to be fun? Like, do you care about it being ranked, or would it be better? Would we be better off having, hey, if you want to have fun tournaments where you're playing whatever format you want, here you go. Here's all this unranked stuff or whatever. Play what you want. But if you want to worry about ranking, you play this format. Like WBO just said, this is the format you play. It will if you want BR, you will always play the standard format. You will always play pick three, choose one, or whatever, and that's through the whole tournament. You don't switch then to deck format or anything like that. Like I think that's just like I honestly hate that. I hate swapping to deck format. I love deck format. I think it's a great format, but I hate swapping to it after spending a whole day of playing one other format.
Yeah, I've always said I hate the fact that the finals format is different from the original one, like the first stage format. It just doesn't make sense to me.
Right. Like you don't go to a Yu-Gi-Oh tournament and then in Top Cut play Magic.
Yep. It's completely different. They're not comparable.
Yeah.
Like I don't mind stuff being ranked regardless of the format. Like if you play Burst Classic only and that's how you get your points, like I don't care. because at the same time, if you're good at both formats, you can get points from 2 formats as opposed to 1. And I can say that's where I got a lot of my points from. I did both. It's like,
Yeah.
That's true.
well, if you're good at both, you should be rewarded for it. And like,
So
you
then,
also you also can't sit there and like spread all the points out between like 15 different formats, because then the leaderboard's going to be tiny and there's going to be no points in any of them. If you get what I'm trying to say.
Well,
yeah,
I
no,
could-
I get what you're saying.
Yeah, I had talked back when I was more vocal on the WBO about, because I think when you have we do have the leaderboards right now for the burst ranking, and I've said this a couple of times, even though I don't know how many people, is like 1,000 or so or this and that. Like when we're being legitimately honest, there's probably like 75 active people, 75 active on the burst ranking system. I agree and maybe agree and disagree with both of y'all, because I can see I I would like to see like a different one for classic and for burst and things like that. My thing with it, because I know they were talking about the code and the issues with trying to get the format. I mean, not the format, but the ranking system. I was like, they don't have to make they would make a new one, but they could just copy what, because they have Metal Fight and then they have Burst. I didn't see, and like I said, I don't see what the big issue or the problem would be if they were to do one for Classic. If they were to do a separate one, and it could just be copying the code from Metal Fight or Burst and just throwing the name as Classic or throwing the name as Limited, throwing the name as DB or whatever, and to be like, this is what it is, or 3v3 and things like that. I know that would be more work, and yes, I do agree with you, Jared, on what you said. Like, yeah, those boards, they would be tiny. Maybe you only got 10 people playing this format and 10 people playing that. But at the same time, it shows you who is active or not, and what they do play and what they do specialize in. So if I go to a tournament like Dark Continent, Team of Palooza, or Summer Games, it's like, hey, I know this dude has his points, him or this and that. They are exceptionally well in this format. But in this format that we're playing here today, I do have an advantage over them, and I do have bragging rights in this. And I guess the other way to say it too is like right now with the burst format, we haven't spoken on this a while, but number one, or even the top five, it's going to be hard. It's extremely hard to catch those guys, and you feel like you're just playing just to play if you are trying to reach number one, even if you are getting the burst ranks without a expectation to get a number one in something, you know. And I think that would drive more players out if it was like, okay, I'm number one in DB, 3v3 or whatever, this and that. Like, let me try my chance at P3, choose one. If you were a leader in all of that, you're the GOAT automatically. It's not because you played for the longest. It's not because you racked up on all these different formats. It's like, I'm leading in every single one of these formats. It's not collectively. I'm showing you that I'm the best Beyblader around in all these formats because I'm leading all of these leaderboards. Come at me. But that's how I see it, or would see it.
Yeah, I get that. It's just I just don't. It's just not enough people playing.
Yeah, you're right.
Like if it was like really big, like how Magic is with their different formats, because I mean that's what they do. Like there's enough people playing all of them where they probably could do something like that. I mean, I don't know if they do. I don't play the game. I just know there's a bunch of different formats.
Yeah.
But with us, I just looked at it. There's only like 4,000 accounts that are ranked in Burst right now, and like just splitting that up between maybe 4 formats or whatever. If they all play like the same ones, like if they all
Yeah.
play them like only one and they play it like it's like 1,000 per. It's like
Jared, I have a question.
What's
I have
up?
a question. In Metal Fight, the first 2 seasons, right? Most of the the metal wheels and whatnot were all pretty much like just repeating each other, right?
What do you mean repeating? Like
because I know like there was like Dark Wolf, Dark Bull. They're still using the
there's
same metal wheel, right?
yeah.
Yeah, like a lot of that was repeated multiple times, even between like newer releases and stuff, right? Like it's mostly
Yeah.
like there's mostly a variety of spin tracks compared to any other part, right?
Yeah. So the first 2 seasons of like Metal Fight, like, well, I guess you can count pre-hybrid wheel. It's like they were all different, but like the first like hybrid wheel system Metal Fight Beyblades, there was a lot of like repeat parts like Earth, Flame, and Dark and stuff like that. But then come 4D, they were all individual. There was no like repeats after that.
Right.
So
But
like
like,
the 4D series is closer to what we have now with Burst, where like every Beyblade has its own like layer.
and gimmick and stuff, right?
Yep.
Right. Like, cause that's what I was thinking. Cause that's where I was starting to think of it. Like for Burst, the unfortunate thing is it's gone on so long, and it has so many different like in Burst generations that
Yeah.
there's just so many different formats you could technically make.
Yep.
Whereas for Metal Fight, you can only make really 3.
There's 3.
Zero
Yeah.
G, yeah, you can make 0G, 4D, and then just regular Metal Fight. Like that would be their classic.
Pretty much what we have now.
Right.
Because there
But
is a 4D format that's just experimental.
Right. And like the same problem comes out with with Burst. You've got Dynamite, you have Sparking, you have GT, you have Cho-Z, and then you have God, and then you have dual layer and single layer. And then like you mix dual and single layer together, that's fine. You mix God and Cho-Z together, but you'll never use any of the God layers when Cho-Z layers are there. So they're worthless. So you would have to make a God format then at that point. Because if you made God part of Classic with dual and single layers, you're not going to use the dual or single layers. You're going to use the God layers.
Yeah, pretty much.
So like that's a problem you run into. Each system has improved to where the other system is obsolete. Like each generation for Burst. So you would have to have one for each of them, which is what, 6? Except for if you do, no, it's 7, and that's if you're counting single and dual together.
Yeah.
So that's
So I think
lot.
something like that is a lot, because that's, if you think about it, that would be, there's a potential for at least 7 different rankings
That's true.
if you separate them all.
Right.
I think in terms like I'm doing it right now because I know I always say that when I say like 50 active. There's definitely more than 50 active. But as I'm looking through the leaderboards, I'm on like the 4th page right now. There are quite a few amount of players who haven't played since pre-COVID, 2019. And even some of them that have played haven't played Burst in
Yeah,
a
where's our
while.
retirement thing?
I don't know, bro.
That's a relic of the ancient past.
Yeah.
That's something I wish they kept up with, but they never did.
Yeah. It's tough. Yeah. Because
I
I'm looking
liked it because it forces you to be active. You can't camp your rank like you could right now.
Yeah.
Like I almost fell out of 4th place in Metal Fight after Beyblade East, and I went positive that weekend.
Yeah.
I won like 60% of my matches, and I lost like 40 points, I think.
Shout out to I think it's King Lufa. He hasn't played since pre-COVID. He's number 10, 61-10. That's a great record, but he hasn't played since 2019.
I know he moved out to, I think, Vegas, and I don't know if the scene's there or if he grew out of it, because he used to live here.
Oh, he did?
Yeah, Law used to live here, and then he moved out to the West Coast.
Yeah, I see his older tournaments, like a lot in New York, and then he had some in Cali.
Yeah, he used to live in DC.
Okay. Yeah.
And that was like back in like Metal Fight though. He was like around here for like early Burst, like when it first released, and then he moved after that.
Yeah. But it is one of the things. I'm not tripping too much on the rank. Not like I feel like I used to, but I think now I'm at a point where I just play to play. But yeah, there are some issues. It is what it is. Did y'all have anything else? I'm about to About to close it.
Well,
Yeah, no. I think
one more thing, real quick, because we were on the topic of the stadiums and everything. The back wall rule, like in general, like how do you actually feel about it?
I'm indifferent. I don't know how much it matters.
Like, would you feel that removing the back wall rule and going WBBA of just the entire stadium is the stadium would just make things easier?
As a judge, yes.
As
a player, I don't know. Because like there is times where I've like sometimes you don't even see the wall bounce until like you watch the recording. Like I've looked at matches, I'm like, oh, I'm sure that one won, but let me just make sure. And like randomly it touched the wall. I'm like, when I don't even remember that happening. Like I had a match like maybe 2 tournaments ago where that happened. I judged it. I'm like, oh, okay, point to that one, I guess. I'm like, that was weird. But like I don't know how often they get hit into the back wall and don't fall into the pocket. Like I see a lot just sit in the pocket anyway, but
yeah,
I don't know.
I would say the same, but I know the only reason why is just because I recently started utilizing attack like that. But I know that's selfish of me. So when I do get those back wall bounces, I feel good to know that I won. But I can also see the other aspect of like if it's not legitimately KO to where it's no longer in the stadium, I could get upset because I know if the shoe was on the other foot, then I would be upset if I was still in there and got an outspin. So I guess I'll have to rule on overall fairness instead of what I want. I would like to see the rule go away. Yeah.
I just think that we've had it for so long at this point that like I wouldn't want to go back because then we're just like then we keep getting people confused. Like there's people to this day that don't know how many points a KO is worth in deck format depending on what format you're playing.
Yeah.
Like I feel like every time we're like judging one of the judges during deck format finals is asking how many points is a KO because in classic they're 2 and everything else they're 1.
Yeah.
So
I
it's
didn't
like
even know that
it's just
until I
not
talked to you.
consistent.
Yeah. I didn't know that until I talked to you that it was different. I never played it. I didn't know it was a thing. But yeah. How you feel, Mike? What you think about it? Mike?
We lose him?
Yeah. I mean, he's there.
He's there. I don't know.
He might be muted. So, all right. We love you, Mike. All right. So did you have anything else, Jared?
Nah, I'm good. I think we got through everything today.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Thank you. Yeah. Mike. We're gonna have to close out without him. We'll get his viewpoints on the next episode. But thank you all for listening. I know this episode was a lot longer. There was a lot to cover. We super in depth. So a lot went on. Shoot, we didn't even talk about the 4th generation. Mike wanted to talk about that, but it's been like 2 hours, and I am at work. I got to do my final round and stuff like that. So we'll pick that up on the next time. Talk about like some of our ideas and thoughts on the 4th generation. But yeah, thank you, y'all both for hopping up here. Thank you, everyone, for listening, taking consideration, and continue to be part of your community, helping build the Beyblade community overall. All right, and take care.
Hello.
What's up, brother? We about to hop off. I already done the closing. As soon as I did the closing, you hopped up. Just hop up with your bye, and then we're out.
Bye.